Hello there Reason people, PoohBear here and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be going over some benchmark results and performance testing I've done with Reason 11, 12 and 13. And before we even get anywhere, I'll be quite blunt and just let you know off the bat, Reason 13 actually outperformed Reason 11 and Reason 12 in all the tests I've done. But obviously that on its own doesn't really mean much, so we need to put a little bit of meat on the bone so you know exactly what I'm actually talking about. So I have a number of tests. You can actually go in and grab a couple of tests yourselves from Reason Talk. They're referred to as benchmark tests. And I've also got some of my other tests. I have one called InC. It's an InC project. Basically, it has over 1,000 devices, 3,000 wires. It's a really massive project, really hammers the system, and obviously a good one to test against. I also got a couple of other projects. So one of my projects, it was a real project. It was a live project I was doing a few years ago, and I actually had some performance issues with it. So it was real devices, and I know how that's meant to perform, so I could test against that. And I even pulled out my old Respire test. So many years ago, I did this Respire test with Reason 10 when they enabled the buffer sizes, wasn't it? That's when we got we could actually start setting our buffer sizes. With regard to the box standard benchmark test, what you're actually doing there is you start playing them and you load up more and more and more and more instruments basically until you start to hit on sound issues, i.e. crackles and pops. The way I measure it is I measure the very first pop I can actually hear, because usually you get a pop and then it'll actually still perform perfectly okay. Then you get a little bit more of a crackle, and then eventually you get a slowdown. And so they're the three things I kind of measure. I also have done measurements on how quick we can load up these projects, which I've got some interesting results for. And I do some other basic testing, how quick does the actual Reason itself actually start, and there's some interesting results there which I can share with you. And yeah, there is some other performance benefits we've got coming, which are here already, to do with the service controllers. That was released with the 13.0.2 release. So yeah, so they might be worth knowing about. Let's go back to the main benchmark sort of results, really. At the end of the day, we're not talking about massive performance increase, but let's pat ourselves on the back, because when Reason 12 came out, it was actually performing worse than Reason 10. It took them a year and a half to get up to the same speed as Reason 11, and it's been another year and a half, and here we are now with Reason 13. And I'm glad to say I've retested 11 and 12 again now. I haven't just taken old results with my current build, my current system, along with Reason 13, and I can actually say Reason 12 actually has now surpassed Reason 11. It's definitely beaten it on majority of the projects. There's still one or two where Reason 11 does sort of creep in, but we're talking about a few percent here and there. And a lot of the percentages I'm going to be talking about are really more to do with time. So a lot of things we're looking at is actually do with time rather than CPU, but obviously CPU is being hammered. So with the, say, the big benchmarks test, the longer we can actually run the benchmarks for, it means that's the more CPU we will be utilizing. And as Reason gets more efficient, we can run these for longer, so it's going to make better usage of our hardware. A bit optimized, that's the word I'm looking for. They become more and more optimized. Reason 13 really did beat them all. I'd say about 5% better performance definitely over Reason 11, and it's probably about 3 to 4% performance increase over Reason 12. There was one silly test I did, and I noticed that Reason 13 really did sort of push the boat out, and it really did do quite well, but that was just like a one-off. So you've got to take the means, really. You've got to sort of average everything out, and that's what you need to look at across the board. Little things like with the InC project, yeah, it performed quite well. The sort of things I look at when I'm looking at this InC project is it runs like a pig, because it's massive. It's absolutely massive, and it's pushing the system to the limit. It absolutely plays perfect. But it's just the graphics updating and all the rest of it. And if you actually have a quick look here, you can see in this Reason 11 you can't even see the cables. That's how badly it is. I'm wiring it up and the cables just appear. At least you're getting to see something with Reason 13, should I say. And this is something I've noticed throughout using Reason 13. It's just that slightly more snappier, slightly better, and slightly smoother looking. So it's just being a little bit better with the graphics at the end of the day. One of the big surprises of all my testing is actually the load time of projects. I did notice, hey, I'm loading some of my projects up really quite quickly, And then all of a sudden, that same project wouldn't be running quite as quick, or sorry, loading quite as quick, which I thought that's a little bit weird. And it actually comes down to your buffer sizes. So buffer sizes affect your load time. And in a couple of my projects, it was definitely a factor of about 3.2. So we're saying it was 3.2 times fast or 3.2 times slower, depending which way you want to look at it, from me loading a project at 64 buffer size to another one with 2K buffer size. It really was that much difference. On average, it worked out to be around about 2.7. So we're talking about quite a high number here, which really did surprise me. Why the hell we even got the engine engaged? Why are buffer sizes have an effect on how we're actually loading up a project? So I've actually gone back to the beta team, Reason Studios beta team, and asked them questions directly, because I'd love to see the answer on that. Overall, I found Reason 13 actually just started a lot quicker, but I've got an interesting result there as well. So yes, I know I've just talked about buffer sizes, but I've noticed in Reason 13 was being snappy, taking probably just over 25 seconds on my system, which is quite good. Not that long ago, I had some issues, so I actually run a bare bones system, which means I started Reason where I didn't have any VSTs installed, I didn't have any surface controllers installed and everything else, and it was about 12 seconds it took to start on my actual system without any of that stuff. As soon as I start, because I have a lot of surface controllers, and I will touch on that again, because that's actually a performance increase, which we should have a look at. So as you start adding VSTs and you start adding all these service controllers, obviously things slow down. But I noticed Reason 13 taking about 25, and then every now and then it could even take up to a minute to start, which I thought was quite bizarre. I'll touch on that in a sec. So Reason 11 was always bang on, like literally 41 seconds. It's quite interesting that it always came out 41 seconds. Reason 12, again, was a little bit loose, anywhere between 30 seconds and 40 seconds. It was just always in that area. And one thing I did notice with Reason 12 and Reason 13 was scanning reactor. So what I've gone into the plugin manager, and I've actually disabled it. Since I've disabled it, Reason 13 now loads up in 19 seconds. Boom. And that's what it's doing all the time. As I said earlier, service controllers really, really massively have been updated in Reason 13, more specifically in Reason 13.0.2. I was having some MIDI lag. I was working with the beta team. We got that sorted, and at the same time, they sorted out my service controller issues, which were, I do run over 100 service controllers. I know some people say, oh, why do you run over 100 service controllers? Well, we're not even talking about 7 MIDI ports worth of data here, so it's not actually a big amount. But I know loads of other people out there who do run a lot of hardware, so they'll have a lot of weird setups, and they're probably in the service controller all the time. And as you can see here in the background now, it's like, yeah, it's just that much snappier. In Reason 11.12, it was dog slow, and I even performed a quick test of creating 16 new ports, which I added, or 16 new service controllers into Reason 11 and 12. It took me over 8 minutes. Same thing, Reason 13. Like under 3.5 minutes I could do it in. To disable them ports or enable them ports, it takes me about 30 seconds, and again in Reason 11 or Reason 12 you're talking about a couple of minutes. So you know, it is taking like 4 times longer to do stuff in R11 and R12 over 13 with that regard. I'm on Windows, as I said, and I've always had a funny issue is when I open up preferences, I've always had to open them up twice. For the simple reason, the first time I open it, it opens it, and then the focus is lost virtually instantly. And I don't know if it's because of the speed it's opening, that reason, you know, the main window then covers it up. So I could minimize that windows and get to my preferences, blah, blah, blah. But it's just as quick to actually open it up again. And I've noticed, definitely since we've sorted out these service controller issues and how snappy it is, I only have to open up preferences once, and it's there, and it's opening up very quick. Again, it's just a silly little performance thing, but because I am in preferences a lot, and as I say, I'm doing a lot of stuff on the service controller, that makes a big difference for me. At the end of the day, do I think these performance increases are worth the actual upgrade? Well, no. No, of course not. You have to look at everything. You have to look at your new devices that you get with it, and everyone's different, so you have to decide, you know, what really benefits you. To be honest, you know, like them 5 new devices, I'm not going to jump up and down about, because I've always done that sort of stuff anyway, and I'm quite happy with the way I do it because it's quite quick. My Surface controller issues, which have been sorted out, That's probably worth more to me than them 5 devices. But that's, I say, that's what it's worth to me personally. So personally to you, it's going to be, you have to look at different things and you have to sit down and work it out. So overall, yeah, I'm actually happy with Reason 13 and the way it's actually kicked off, especially from the performance side of things. I think that's the important thing. Yeah, I know there's some people with browser issues. The only tip I can give about browser issues, if you're new to Reason 13, leave your system on for a couple of nights and just let that indexing fully complete. I remember when R13 was very first released, even if I let the indexing complete, I found it was a bit weird in how it sort of displays stuff, but it's getting a lot better. And they are improving it all the time. So I'm hoping to see even more improvements going forward with that browser. And it's just another workflow which we have to get used to, really, at the end of the day. I know we've all got semi-used to the old browser, which I didn't think was that brilliant. So the new one, yeah, you get used to it and it works quite well. Right, I don't want to waffle. I want to keep this nice and short. So I just want to say thank you for watching and bye for now.